Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun, and this is a reaction and review for Teacup Episode 1 and Episode 2.
hmm
If you haven't heard that much about this show yet, here's just like a brief little groundwork. We are in rural Georgia, though really it could be just like rural anywhere, and it is the story of a family who, in the dead of night, get some mysterious things happening around them. Are they trapped in their community? What is out to possibly destroy or help them? Question mark.
Yeah, so far so good with this show. There's a really good mystery about this where it's kind of like, why are they trapped at their family farm? Why can't they cross this mysterious blue line? What is happening to the people that do cross this line? And why is this paint actually a barrier of anything? It's a really good setup of a mystery.
Yeah, and I think, it's October. This is spooky season, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the time when you're going to throw out there a show like this that has some horror vibes. I feel like maybe it's
Mhm.
under the radar a little bit for some people, but it's very entertaining. If you've seen The Handmaid's Tale or
Mhm.
Chuck or Dexter, Yvonne Strahovski. Then you got Scott Speedman, who was on Grey's Anatomy, Animal Kingdom, 2 billion other things. So there are some familiar faces. There are some things these episodes are doing really well. There's a
Mhm.
couple of things I want a little bit more out of, but I feel pretty happy coming out of these two episodes.
Yeah, the thing is these episodes are pretty short. I
Yeah.
mean, it normally we love it when there's only one episode a week and then we're able to really dive into that
Yeah.
episode. But with how short these episodes are, they are releasing them 2 a week, and I'm not mad about it.
No, I'm not mad about it in this circumstance. Now, do I wish that there were more episodes than what we're getting? Because this show is basically going to be done around Halloween
Yeah.
time. Like, this is not a super long run, and that is one of the issues that I do have about it, but we'll get a lot more into that. And of course, so much more. Like Jess said, there's a lot of mysteries that we're going to be kind of like working our way through
hmm
here. Before we go any further, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button because, in addition to having weekly reviews of Teacup, there's another brand new show that is also starting today in Sweet Pea, which is over on Stars. It has Ella Purnell. I mean, ironically, some Dexter vibes are going on with that show as well.
Yeah, if you're looking, it is spooky season. If you
Yeah.
are looking for another really good dark show, Sweet Pea is up your alley. We're also covering Grotesquerie here, which is
Hmm.
definitely up your alley
Yeah.
for spooky season. But also, if you want to support us further, check out our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. We are exclusively over there covering the Penguin. It is the only place you can get our Penguin
Yeah.
reviews. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined our Patreon. It really helps Matt and I here at the channel.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Okay. Let's just start by laying a little more groundwork with some of the characters here.
Mhm,
So we have Maggie, who
mhm.
is Yvonne's character. She's basically feels a veterinarian of sorts to all the local animals here at the farm.
Yeah, she seems like mostly, it seems like a horse doctor, which is what we've only really seen so far, but
Yeah.
I'm sure she is sort of a vet to the community.
Yeah, it feels like this is a very small town where everybody knows each other. Everybody's all up in each other's business.
Yeah, so we've got this family of four and then a mother-in-law, and it's kind of a same setup as the family in From. And I know that there's going to be so many
Yeah.
comparisons to that show, but these shows truly could not be any different. They're very different. The only thing that's kind of the same is that people are sort of trapped in this one space. But the family is a mother, a father, a young boy who's affected by what's going on, and a teenage girl, which is sort of kind of the same thing that's going on over on From. But they've thrown in this mother-in-law
Yeah.
who is James's mom, who's like this rock and roll hippie that reminds me of both of my parents. My parents are rock and roll hippies. They
Mhm.
are Ellen all wrapped up into two people. So I really like her, even though I'm a little bit suspicious of her and kind of some of the stuff that's going on.
Oh, I'm very suspicious of Ellen.
Oh,
I think there's okay, a lot of these shows, not to get the cart before the horse here. I know a lot of these horror shows, the emphasis is always, oh, it's always about the kids.
It's always about the
It's the
kids.
creepy kid who's got some sort of secret, and we certainly have, Arlo the son's gonna be the creepy kid in these episodes, but I kind of think it is the creepy mother-in-law that is more tied in to almost everything at this point.
Okay, so what we have going on over this episode to kind of like pull it to the part that we all want to talk about, which
Yeah,
is the guy in the gas mask with the blue line and what is going on here. We have this family, we have more people showing up, more people showing up. Like there was
yeah,
like an unusual amount of people that ended up showing up to this farm before the blue line came in and they all got trapped. We have the neighbors down the road. They had a problem with their horse, brought them over in the middle of the night. And then we have this older couple that's come over in the middle of the night as well because their dog is missing. Everybody's there.
yeah.
So we have Arlo, the young boy, runs into the forest. He runs into this woman that we saw at the very beginning of this series, and she transfers something from her eye to his eye, and now he seems to be the person that's carrying whatever burden this woman was carrying. And the minute that that happens, who shows up? The guy in the gas mask running the perimeter with this blue line. So whatever is happening with Arlo feels very much like why they are trapped in this place. So I'll put it out there for you guys and for you.
Yeah.
Guy in gas mask, friend or foe?
I kind of think friend, as weird as it may be to say, because what we sort of have going on here is that Arlo and previously this other woman, like they're very terrified of something, and there's a lot of it that's kind of incomprehensible. But the word I kept hearing over and over again, or I guess words, is murder maker, and it's to me. It feels like Murder Maker may be sort of the big bad, the person who's responsible for all of these sort of things. If they're off making a bunch of murders, that's typically not a good sign. So I kind of feel like Murder Maker is out there gonna wreak some havoc, and I feel the gas mask dude is partially going to be somebody who is trying to keep Murder Maker from reaching them. But let's be real here. If somebody shows up at your farm, at your door, at your work in a gas mask and acting all kind of weird, you're probably not going to believe them unless they are very, very imposing and scary. I kind of feel like this guy really laying down the law here. It's kind of the only thing that they can do.
I think friend, kind of.
Okay.
Like he's obviously been through this before. He's prepared. He's got the paint, he's got the mask, he's, got the perimeter all secured or whatever, and he clearly knows what's going on the other side of it. Him wearing this gas mask, anyone who goes across this perimeter seems to just melt, like whether
Yeah.
this is, a hallucination, whether this is a poisonous gas, something radioactive, who knows what it is, but you cross this perimeter and you melt and it's over. And now they've seen it with their own eyes. It's just kind of like, is this person trying to save them, keep them safe? But because Arlo's in there and whatever's been transferred has been transferred to Arlo, and then this guy shows up, I wonder if he's almost trying to keep everybody else safe that's on the other side of the perimeter, because whatever's in Arlo has made this start happening over here at this area. So he's just like, okay, I'm going to keep everybody on my side safe. So I'm going to put this perimeter around them because they are now the problem.
This is where all of this sort of stuff gets very, very tricky. And I should point out here that this show is based on some sort of source material that neither Jess nor I have read.
Nope.
So
yeah, so no spoilers, guys, no spoilers.
Yeah, I don't know how faithful this is being to that anyway, but it just feels like really big picture here. How I've sort of imagined everything in my brain is that Murder Maker is out there doing Murder Maker things. And now you have Arlo, who has like some sort of power or whatever we want to call it that's passed over from this woman to him. That this to me feels a little bit like a beacon, a little bit like an advanced warning, like something that they can do to prevent themselves from being victims to Murder Maker. And now you have Gas Mask person who's showing up, who's sort of drawn this sort of perimeter. I kind of feel like both Gas Mask Dude and Arlo are both sort of like these cautionary measures, and really these two episodes more so than anything else, they're just like setting a foundation. They're kind of getting us to know the main players, but also still keeping the real enemy a little bit out of reach. Like they've marketed this show with the gas mask dude, but I still think they have not shown at all who's the real player behind all of it. And I hope they're even more intimidating the gas mask dude. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah, Arlo now feels like someone who has like the sight or is like a seer of whatever Murder
Yeah.
Maker has done. Because besides Murder Maker, he's saying things like run, hide,
Yeah.
like there's a bunch of things that he seemingly is seeing that he's unable to communicate to his mom Maggie, and he's trying, and there's part of him that just seems to switch off where he'll start just repeating these same words over and over again,
Yeah.
and sometimes even taking a swipe at his mom and things that are out of his control, and then he'll come back and be like, this isn't me, like I don't know what is going on, like something is sort of taking over me, and it feels like they're really going to need to sit down and listen to the message. Like, what is it? Because at one point, Arlo was just like, we need to hide. Like, this is one of the messages that's coming through is like Murder Maker, run, hide. And by the end of this, he's like, we need to hide. So it makes me wonder if Murder Maker, we'll call them Murder Maker going forward here, if Murder Maker's actually within the perimeter and that the guy in the gas mask has made this perimeter to keep Arlo and the family in there because they're goners. They're already, affected by this. They're not getting out of this. Nothing is going to be okay with that. And that Murder Maker's in there with them. So even though they think they're kind of safe on this side of the line, they're not really. Because when the gas mask guy held up that sign that was like, trust no one, I was like, okay, does that include you? Like, are you friend or foe, or who on the other side there is involved with this? Somebody there feels like maybe they're Murder Maker.
I think if we're going to go down that particular theory, which I think is interesting, the biggest piece of evidence is really the start of the show. They do this whole thing about, look, there's a tempest in a teacup, and which I have never heard of this. I'm sure this is a thing. I do not have a lot of fancy teacups growing up. Maybe that's a part of the problem here. But if that's really the case here, tempests aren't great. I don't think anybody's sitting back and thinking like, oh, this is a lovely, soothing metaphor. So if we're kind of to view the whole show in this way, then yeah, there's probably something really, really bad within this teacup. And guess what? If you're trapped under a teacup, and we even see this when, Maggie catches the bug and then releases it, like you're kind of trapped in there. You can't get out. You're just sort of stuck. And the tempest is kind of just still swirling around you.
Yeah, it was giving me Under the Dome vibes for anyone who watched that show way back. I loved that show. Oh my God. Okay, but when Arlo, even later, once they are trapped, picks up some marbles and uses them, puts them under the teacup to kind of like show them like they're all trapped. I was like counting those marbles, being like, is it the same amount of people that are trapped here? And it's not. So I'm wondering if there's a certain amount of people that aren't in there because they don't make it, and he knows.
I think Ellen, the mother-in-law, I think she is
my sweet rock and roll hippie.
I'm not going to say that she's Murder Maker yet, but I do think she's got some very unusual connection to everything that's going on here. I think she knows more than she's letting on, at the very least, because I mean, she has this whole spiel about, cat scratch fever at one point, and how she had went through that, and how that, so it feels like she's trying to give some sort of explanation as to what's going on here with Arlo, while still knowing that this is not really what's going on with Arlo. Like she's giving some sort of distraction, and it just feels like her behavior patterns in general in these episodes, that she's kind of detached a little bit from this world, and she feels kind of in general to be really chill given everything that's going on here. And
hippie rock and rollers,
maybe that's the hippie rock and rollers, but I don't know, because I'm not a hippie rock and roller. But if I was in this environment and animals are missing and things are going haywire, I'm pretty sure I would still be like, dude, what? And I would be like running into a closet. I mean, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo was a hippie kind of, right? He was screaming all the time.
Okay, tinfoil hat.
All right.
This is what I kind of think the deal is with Murder Maker. I feel like what happened with Arlo, where there's this transfer of sort of, we'll call it the sight, because it feels like he's seeing past things that Murder Maker has done. I wonder if Murder Maker is made the same way now hear me out. So there's
Yeah.
been all these like high frequency, weird static on all the radios. None
Yeah.
of the cars are working, whatever. I kind of wonder if the radio static that's going on, because the first person that heard it was Ellen,
Yeah.
is that a way that the murder maker is making murderers? So
Yeah.
there is nobody yet who is the murder maker, but it's going to come through the frequency and it's going to hit whoever that's sort of under this dome or
Yeah.
in this perimeter, and it's going to turn them into the murder maker, and then they're just going to all take care of themselves, and the blue line's going to come up and life is going to be normal again.
It's a bizarre but interesting premise to this show, because we have like this little internal world, and then we've got this big external world where we don't know everything that's going on here. But at the same time, what makes a little bit of this so tricky is, yeah, we saw what happened to Claire at the end of all of it.
Mhm.
You know, she's basically shredded, and ultimately, and then we also had angry bald dude whose name I do not remember. I just know he was bald and angry. But this show, it's established that, okay, whoever gas mask dude is, like, they clearly were able to prepare enough to put on the gas mask to get set up. So they had some sort of advanced knowledge that this was coming, or that this was going to be spreading. And that's just kind of the weirdest part of it, is that it feels like on the outside everything that happened was so instant, and yet there's a certain amount of preparation for it that I can't quite explain, unless gas mask dude is actually responsible for putting this together so that people are melting.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it feels like when he was in the car,
Yeah.
he took off the gas mask. So it feels like if you're inside something, you will be okay. Because if he's able to take that off and he's in the car, then he's okay. The minute that he has to get back out, he's putting it back on. So something is going on the other side of this line. Like, originally I thought maybe it's a hallucination and
Yeah.
they're being shown this, but it's not really happening until Don, angry bald guy,
Yeah.
puts his hand over to try to get his wife to try to help her before she melted away into nothingness. And his hand ended up melting, and now he's back on the right side of the line, and his hand is still, melted. So whatever's going on over there is actually happening over there. But it does feel like, after seeing Gas Mask Man in that car with no mask on,
Yeah.
if they could find a way to get one of their cars to work, which I'm sure is part of why none of them work, that they can cross the line. They can get out as long as they're covered up.
What I really like about these two episodes in general is that I'm not necessarily the biggest horror guy, but the subgenre of horror I do like the most is the everything happens over the course of one night, and it feels really compact, and it's sort of like, the video game Until Dawn, which for some reason
Oh, so
they
good.
completely unnecessarily re-released for PS5, and I'm just sitting back being like, the game works on PS4 fine, guys. You don't need to go
Yeah.
pay full price to play it all over again. But anyway, like, that game is set over the course of one night, and I really like that the show is so kind of compact and interesting in that way. Conversely, my fear, and this is sort of the thing that I'm struggling with the most with this show right now, is just that it feels almost too short, where there's a lot of characters that are kind of popping up at this point, because we've got, this other family who brings over their horse, which includes Weecha from the Blacklist. And I'm just sort of sitting here and being like, I don't know you people well enough. I don't know how much I'm supposed to care about you. And if this show is so short, how am I going to be invested in anybody?
And she's having an affair with the husband, so I'm not invested in her or the husband at all. It's difficult because it is a show where you want to be invested
Yeah.
in the people that are there, but they've definitely made a few villains that are under there that's kind of like, if this husband in the affair, they end up getting got, I'm not going to feel bad about it. And I think the same with Dawn, who's,
Yeah.
really angry and whatever, that it's just like, okay, well, if he gets got, we won't feel that badly about it. But at the same time, you want characters that we will feel badly about if they end up dying, because we need to be invested so that we get worried about them. My biggest question about Gas Mask Man, why didn't you bring enough for everybody? Clearly you could have let them out by just bringing a bunch of gas masks and helping them out. That's why I said I think he's friend, kind of. I think he's friend to the people that are on the outside, and that while this is happening, he needs them all to just take care of each other so that once it's done and he can remove the border, world goes back to normal. Sort of the take care of these few so that the rest of the world can be okay.
Yeah, I mean, he could be one of these people. It's like, okay, self-preservation is first and foremost. If I can't help these other people, I'll try to help these other people, but then they got to listen to me and they got to actually go through whatever this, I don't know, ritual is.
Yeah, because if he knows what's going on and that Arlo has whatever site has been transferred to him, and let's say the murder maker is in there, and I think that they probably are, then Gas Mask Man just needs all of that to be taken care of and everybody to be dead, so that when he's not letting the murder maker come out and kill the world kind of thing. That it has to be contained with this smaller group of people for the greater good of the world.
One of the funny / ironic things about this show through 2 episodes is I feel like one of the characters we are meant to root for the most is also currently playing on The Handmaid's Tale, one of the most awful human beings imaginable. So I'm just like sitting here being like, oh, I'm supposed to root for you in this show. I feel like Maggie is sort of the person who cares the most about these other people, seems to be a good mother. I watch her be the murder maker at the end of all of this.
I'm also rooting for the teenage boy that came over with his dad jokes. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he was surprisingly wholesome, I thought, for a teenage boy. Like, they've done a decent job establishing these characters. Like, the teenage daughter is not just, like, super, super bratty. They're not all complete archetypes in that way. Like, I feel like the show needs to go deeper. I think they need to kind of give us some more legitimate surprises, things that we can kind of cling to a little bit more. It's an interesting show. It's still a little bit obtuse for me through the first 2 episodes. So I'm not sitting here being like, this is the best horror drama I've seen all year, because it's not to me right now, but it is engaging and entertaining.
Listen, From is easily the best horror that's out there right now. With the bar being up in heaven, it's really hard to get into this genre right now because From is so good. But if you don't compare it to From, this show has the potential to be really good. I mean, they have set up a really solid mystery. They have a really good cast with this. I mean, there's so many little pieces to it, talking about, if the Gas Mask Man is friend or foe, what is going on within this blue line? And then you have people within the blue line that are seemingly good and people that are doing not so good things. It's interesting so far. It's got my attention.
Well, we'll be here, of course, to break down the rest of Teacup this season. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys do not miss any of our further coverage. Like we said earlier, we're also covering Grotesquerie and then also Sweet Pea, which is also premiering today, and that's over on Stars. And if you want to support us further, join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description. We are covering The Penguin exclusively over there. So check that out. Thank you so much to our patrons. We'll see you here next time.